The tools needed to install Silvermine Stack and Tack Stone are the following: a cordless or power drill, the driver for the drill to match the screws, circular saw or masonry saw with a diamond blade, measuring tape, caulk gun, level, utility knife, hammer, tin snips, 4-inch angle grinder with a diamond blade, construction adhesive. Safety tools needed are gloves, dust mask, safety glasses, and earplugs. Another item that will be very helpful installing Silvermine Stack and Tack Stone is a concrete brick or block saw. You can pretty much rent them at a rental store or pick them up at a hardware or lumber yard. A lot of times they'll rent them, but that saw will definitely help you cutting your stone, making a straighter, more true cut. Surface to be covered: masonry, concrete, brick, or block. In order to cover Silvermine Stack and Tack Stone over concrete, brick, or block, you're going to need one of the following: either a nail-actuated stud gun for masonry or Tapcon screws. That's one option. The other option is to take and put furring strips every couple feet or every 16 inches all the way down the wall, and then screw the stone into your furring strips. Wood construction. Inside the house, you're going to have a sheetrock. You're going to make sure you nail into the studs, but you can go right over the top of the sheetrock. If you're going outside, you're going to have typically a wood sheeting on the outside of the house, and you're going to nail into the studs. You just got to mark your studs, and you nail into the studs or screw into the studs. Prepare wall. For standard wood construction, you want to put a house wrap of some sort over the wall and mark your studs vertically. You mark every stud on your wall with a level line and a marker of some sort to mark the studs, because you need to have at least one fastener per piece of stone into a stud when you're installing our stone. You can either use nails or screws to install Silvermine stone. We recommend a stainless steel screw. Then we know that that fastener, that screw, is not going to deteriorate or rust out beneath the stone. I also should point out that the screw should at least go into the stud at least an inch. So if your sheeting's a 1/2 inch, you should use like an 1 5/8 or longer screw. If you're going over treated wood, you want to use a 30-pound felt. When you put the felt on, you still have to mark the studs vertically so that you have every stud marked with a level line, so you know where every stud is, because at least one fastener needs to go in through the flashing into the stud. And you have to use stainless steel fasteners. If you use galvanized fasteners, it will react with the treated wood and it will rot the fastener out over time. Cutting the stone, it's very simple, but yet it's the most challenging part, and the better you cut the stone, the better the fit and finish is, and the better your job will turn out. Probably the easiest way for most homeowners is using a circular saw with a diamond blade that you can buy at any hardware store. Cuts the stone very easy. And then you can also use the big masonry saws that you can get at most rental stores. The big saws are nice because they usually will have either a chop to it where you can actually set the stone and come down like a chop saw, or it will have a table that rolls into the blade. You also will probably need a 4-inch angle grinder with a diamond blade on it to do some small cutting if you have hose spigots on the house, or if you have any outlet or light boxes, or any tight corners that you have to fit and cope on our stone. The angle grinder is just a lot easier to operate, and handheld it will do the smaller cuts and make the job a little easier. Cutting the metal flashing. You can either use tin snips to cut the metal flashing, or you can use a utility knife and score it and then bend it, because it is aluminum flashing. The flashing is a very important part to starting installing Silvermine stone. You start laying the stone from the bottom up. So the first section of stone needs to have a flashing put behind it that's a minimum of 8 inches tall. You can use aluminum, galvanized, or the rubberized membrane flashing, but you have to have at least an 8-inch flashing behind the first course of stone. Once you get the flashing in, you're going to need to consider the fasteners that you install Silvermine stone with. You can either use screws or nails. We recommend stainless steel screws. If you use a screw or nail, it needs to penetrate into the stud at least an inch. Some people want to put an adhesive behind the first starter stone. Behind the first course of stone, it isn't necessary, since our stone allows for natural movement from freezing, thawing, and settling of the structure. If you want to put construction adhesive behind the first course, you must only put the adhesive in the center of the stone. Keep the adhesive away from the ends and the bottom to allow for moisture to drain properly. It's got to be level. The first row of stone, the most important thing is keeping it level. Whether you use a chalk line and then making sure that you line up the stone up, or whether you use a ledger board of some sort or a brick ledge in some cases, you want to make sure that that first row of stone starts off very straight and level. It will make your job go a lot easier, and you will be a lot happier with the results. Staggering the joints. You don't want to have the vertical seams stacked right above each other. You want to have at least a 3 or 4 inch offset between every vertical joint. The stone is basically a 2 foot by 6 inch piece of stone. You can cut that into several sections, whether it's 6 inch, 9 inch, 12 inch. You can cut it into different lengths to start the staggering. But just like you would run any siding, you don't want the vertical joints all in one row. You want to stagger those throughout the wall. And typically, you want to stagger every 3rd row. So you don't want to have any of the vertical seams at least every 3 rows. If you're putting our stone over a sidewalk, driveway, or poured slab, you want to hold our stone up about a 1/2 inch so that if you do have frost heaving in your region, that it will allow that slab to move up and down and not harm the stone. Edge of the stone at the end of the wall. As you start your stone wall, you want to start with a factory edge to the outside. Depending on if you're using vinyl siding or wood siding, you're going to have a trim board at the corner. Wherever you're starting your stone, you want to use a factory edge to that outside edge. You always take all your cuts and bury them into the wall. You will not even see them if you take your time and do a good job of cutting and fitting the stone together. If you're doing a pillar between a garage door and a service door, you're going to have most of the time cuts on both sides of the stone. What you want to do is put factory edges all to one side and the cut edge all to the other side. What I like to do is put the factory edge to the side that I'm going to see the most often, and put the cut edge to the side that it would be less likely to see.